you for all participants to be here. And I, as said, want to talk about project execution because many people talk about planning of projects and planning of the work, but the time savings is in the optimizing of the execution of the project. And for those people who don't like the word project, they can use the word work. So we can optimize the execution of the work. So who am I? I'm a project coach and an electronic engineer by birth. And I help teams and organizations to very quickly become more efficient, more effective, and more predictable. In short, I call that quality on time, delivering the right result at the right time, because I have the naive idea that that's what our work is about. Often I'm only asked to help and to coach when the project is in trouble. Otherwise, people think, why do we need this great guy, this strange guy? And sometimes I also still develop electronic products because that's what I did since my birth. So optimizing project execution. I hear that some people say if there's a difficult deadline, they do their best, but the quality is diluted. Of course, not in your projects, I know, but yeah, some may sometimes have encountered that. And then people need excuses to explain why they were late, right? All the excuses. Well, you know, if I hear these excuses, I have the bullshit stamp. Because, well, let's first go through the presentation because at the end you will know. Most impossible deadlines are not impossible at all. And even then, it is still possible to deliver great quality. If that sounds incredible, well, let's see. Some people thought it incredible, but wanted to try. So in the US, there was an electronic product development project, and they saved about half a year, saving 20 man a year. Yeah, and a year later I came and their product manager said they delivered unprecedented quality and they won the team award from the company for that year. And you can find even what they said in a paper from the conference in Portland. A space project in Holland saved about 1 year, delivered successfully on time instead of 1 year late as expected. A software project in Poland. I was in Warsaw at the conference and they said, we have a deadline in 6 weeks and it's absolutely impossible. So they asked a special session with me and I did some coaching. And after 5 weeks, they said, we successfully delivered, proudly saying no overtime because before they were working day and night, you know that. Yeah. Overtime is fooling yourself and your boss. Large development projects, sometimes I have to abandon because they don't want to listen. And then I say, you don't have to listen to me, but then don't waste your money of your company on me. Yeah, so they wasted at least 70 man a year not following my suggestions. But later they still looked at my suggestions and they started satisfying every whim of the customer, as somebody said. And another project, as an example, I abandoned, where at the end the project manager said, well, Niels, all these things you say and I don't do, actually 20 years ago my professor said the same. I said, then why don't you do it? So just to save your time, after this one you can do something else. Of course you can keep listening, but I'll give you the main secret to be on time with good quality. Half of what we do in our work later will prove not to have been needed. Of course, not exact half, but about half. Do you agree? If we see that half after spending the time is already wasted. If we see that we are going to do things that are not needed, we still can decide not to do it. Yeah? And if we don't do it, we save time we can use to do the things we have to do even better and still deliver great quality on time. Yeah. And why is that so important to look at that way? Because if you do things wrong, it costs 3 times as much. Yeah. First you do it wrong, then you have to find out, and you have to do it right. That's 3 times as much as doing it right in the first place, right? Therefore, every time people complain about quality costing more, my response is always quality costs less. And therefore, many people talk about retrospectives where we have to learn all the things we did wrong. Yeah, I prefer perspectives. Perspective to see what we are going to do wrong so that we can decide not to do it wrong. How about that? And I know humans are not perfect. So we know we are not perfect, but that's why we use plan, do, check, act. Yeah, to continuously learn to do things better. And just to reiterate that one, the Deming cycle, the plan, do, check, act cycle, Deming called the plan, do, study, act. I don't mind how you call it as long as we do it. Yeah, and the problem is what we usually see is not the plan, do, check, act, but the intuitive cycle. It's pull, do, pull, do, pull, do. I can't call it plan because if we've done something, we think, what's the next thing? And we already jump in doing it. So I can't call it plan, I call it pull. Pull, do, pull, do, pull, do. Now, intuitive cycle is, of course, a survival strategy. Yeah, if you're hungry, you find something to eat, you eat it, done. That's how we survive. But if intuition would be perfect, everything we do would be perfect. Not everything we do is perfect, so apparently sometimes intuition pushes us in the wrong direction. So instead of pull, let's plan. And the plan is twofold: what to achieve and how to achieve it. And then we have to do it. And that's already a pitfall because the plan must be doable and we must follow our plan. But assume we did that. In the check phase or study phase, we can say, is the result according to plan and the way we achieved the result according to plan? The product and the project. And in the act phase, we decide what we are going to do differently the next cycle, because if we do nothing differently, the result next time will be the same. And as we know, we are not perfect, the result should be better and not just the same. Yeah? Now, most people do plan and do, and in the back of their mind, they have some check. We should have done it, but we are so busy. Yeah, and that's why the act phase is usually the element that usually is skipped. So instead of that, we are actively going to the act phase. What are we going to do differently? And we are going to do it that way, and we plan according, etc. And after the do, we check, was it actually better or not? If yes, can we do it even better? If no, how can we do it better? So that's the magic, one of the magic tools. Now first, let's say, what's the goal of our work? The universal goal to me is delivering the right result at the right time, wasting as little time as possible. Another word, efficiently, because efficiency is effectiveness plus time. And to say it even shorter, right result at the right time, I call that quality on time. A little bit longer is providing the customer. Of course, there are many stakeholders, I know, but the customer is the entity who orders and pays. Yeah? Providing the customer with what they need, which usually is not what they say, at the time they need it, which may be earlier and later than they say, to be satisfied and they want to pay, and to be more successful than without it, because if they're not successful, they cannot pay. But customer is king, but we are not slaves. So it must be win-win, what the customer can afford, because usually what the customer wants, they can't afford. Yeah. So we must be careful. And what we mutually, beneficially and satisfactorily can deliver in a reasonable period of time. If you can help me to improve this, be my guest. But I use this already many years as a basis of the top level requirement of what we do. So I can ask you, I can't see everybody here, but I can ask you, do you know what you are supposed to achieve the coming weeks? Is that clear? It's absolutely clear. Do we know? I always use we instead of you, but actually, of course, in this case, I mean you. Do you know what you are supposed to achieve the coming week? Is that clear? Because the next step is, do you know what you have to do to achieve that? Yeah? Do you know what we are supposed to do to contribute to achieving what should be achieved in optimum order? That's what I want to talk about. Now, I have a whole toolbox. And you may have heard about evolutionary project delivery and EVO from Tom Gilp. So I learned also a lot from Tom Gilp. And we have a lot of discussions about that. Of course, plan to check act is the basis of quick cycles to learn both on the product and the project. Business case, why are we going to improve something? Because every project, every work we deliver to customers is to improve something they already do. So why are we going to improve what? Then we have the requirements. What are we going to improve this time and what are we this time not going to improve? And how much to improve? Architecture and design is selecting an optimum compromise of the conflicting requirements because requirements are always in conflict. Let's see more support, more improvement budget. Yeah. Early review and inspections. Early reviews is not waiting until somebody has completed some document, some code or so, but let people do some piece, a part of it, and then we can review and see the tendencies of people injecting defects. We give that back so that the person can repair them and prevent them in the rest of the document or of the code. That saves a lot compared with waiting until the whole document is ready and then reviewing. That's why we call it early review. What I added to all this stuff, Tom focuses more on defining clearly what we are supposed to achieve, which is very important to have a good focus on. But what I missed there was the project execution improvement. And that's what I added. A weekly task cycle, a bi-weekly delivery cycle, and timeline for a little bit longer periods of time. And zero defects is an attitude because if you prevent defects, it's much cheaper than first making them, then finding them, and then trying to repair them. The business case is about the why. The requirements engineering is about what, how much, and to know where we are done. Architecture and design, how to do it. Early review, we check and learn as early as possible, preventing whatever we can prevent. Weekly task cycle is to optimize the efficiency of what we do. Delivery cycle is to optimize the effectiveness of what we do. And timeline is what will happen if we work like we work. And what will we do about it? Why do I color that red? Because many projects, of course not yours, but most other projects are late, right? They take more than we think. Yeah. So with timeline, we see what will happen. Then we see that is more than we have time or budget for. So what are we going to do about it? Because failure is not an option. Right result, right time, quality on time. So I'm going to skip this very quickly. Tom Gilp tells us how to write requirements in a way that even the CEO can understand it and discuss about it to quantify the goal. Yeah, this example is requirement is speed of luggage handling at the airport. We need a scale to be able to measure the time between arrival of the plane and the first luggage on belt. Why is arrival on plane shown with these what we call fuzzy brackets? Because what's arrival of airplane? Yeah, have you ever flown from Ryanair? Ryanair touches the ground, da, 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 on time again, and it takes 15 minutes before they are at the gate. Yeah, so arrival of airplane has to be better defined maybe. Yeah, but at this moment we know that, and we know that, but we are not spending time at this stage to detail that. Then how to measure arrival of airplane, fuzzy brackets, measure arrival first luggage on belt, fuzzy brackets, calculate difference. Now, do you already see a problem here with this requirement? Measure arrival of first luggage on belt. So they take one bag, rush it to the belt, bam, done, on time, and then half an hour later all the other luggage comes. So what should be arrival of airplane at the gate, measure arrival of last luggage on belt. So the moment you write this down, people already can see problems and repair them before they implement anything incorrectly. Then we have the benchmarks. I don't want to go too deep in those, and the requirements that say what is acceptable as the result of our project, tolerable, Tom Gilt calls it. Yeah, it means if we are worse than that, we failed with our project. And the goal is what we think we can achieve within the time and money budget of the project. And you see, we can even say gradual improvement quality in quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. Now, some people talk about the requirements should be smart. And when somebody said that, I said, yeah, of course. And then when I was at home, I ran to internet and they say, what is smart? Well, of course, this is smart. Specific, measurable, attainable. Is it possible at all? Yeah, with the benchmarks, and realizable and time or traceable. Some people say time, some people say traceable. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have only 45 minutes. But Tom says, why is the quantification so important? Yeah, it's not the main point. The main purpose of quantification is to force us to think deeply and debate exactly what we mean. If somebody said the interface should be user-friendly, your reflex should be user-friendly 3 or 7. Yeah, that's my reflex, 3 or 7. And they look at me, yeah, how user-friendly is it now? 3? And it should be 7? 7 what? So the moment you can't give the answer, we say it's complex concepts to be decomposed until we can quantify, so that we know what we actually are talking about. Okay, so this is a picture I found in Tom's presentation last year at BCS, and he's focusing on the quality to specify that, like high security, to be quantified detection at 99.9% within 10 minutes. Fuzzy brackets because I have no clue how to detect that, but okay. At the moment you write it down, you can discuss it. And then we have suggested solutions which have an impact on improvement, hopefully. And hopefully the improvement is positive. We go from 90% to 91st with the first solution. And then we can say, okay, we are not there. So another thing, we can add some more and some more until we're there. And then actually, my approach that I added is to get it on time. Yeah, how to organize best what we have to achieve and what to do in order to achieve that. And we use estimation and time spent to learn. Many people think we can't estimate. We can estimate very well. But they say estimate is always wrong. No, an estimate is not wrong. An estimate is an estimate to the best of our knowledge, period. Yeah. Now, what do we do to plan a week, to make sure that we prevent doing the wrong things? First, every week we plan and we say, what are we supposed to achieve? First, focus on this is what this week we like to achieve and we think we can. Then we think, how much time do we have available? Because if you eerst do planning and then see how much time you need. Usually we need more than we have. So we start with what to achieve and how much time we have. That's the budget. And then we can say 2/3 of the gross available time is the net plannable time. 2/3, yes, because 1/3 is for all the other things that happen in your work. Everybody goes to the loo, drinks coffee or tea, has some discussions, some planning sessions, whatever. All these things happen anyway. Now, if they happen anyway, we don't have to plan them. We are not going to waste time to plan things that happen anyway, right? So it turns out that 2/3 and 1/3 is okay because many people at the end of the week have done a lot, but the pile is still the same because everything was interrupts. Yeah. In this case, we say 2/3 of the time is for the work we're supposed to do, and the rest is for all the interrupts that happen anyway. And so it gives a time box instead of letting it grow to 100%. Then we think, what's the most important things to do in order to achieve what we're supposed to achieve? We estimate the net effort needed to do these things, and that's not a team effort, it's an individual effort, because if you estimate the team effort, yeah, we learn nothing. So we get a list of tasks, and the tasks are defined by the person who's going to do the work. Yeah. And then the estimates of the net hours needed to do this work are made by the person who is going to do the work, because the estimates are only for that person, for nobody else. Which most important things fit in the net plannable time? So default 2/3 of 40 hours is 26 or 27 hours, up to the person to define what that is. Based on that, you can say what can and what are we going to do, and what are we not going to do. This potentially we can do, and this we already know 1 week before that we won't have done it. Yeah, and we also have to do it. I said, I know. But instead of at the end of the week, at the beginning of the week already, we know that we won't get it. Yeah. And by writing things down, then you have to already to unfuzzy what's in your mind. In your mind, we think we know exactly what we're going to do. But if you have to write it down, you know what's going to happen. So every week we reflect and reflect. Of course, we are not perfect, so we still have to think a week later, was all the work done? If some of the task was not completed, yeah, either we spent the time, but we needed more time, so we can learn to estimate better. What did I think last week? What do I know now when I've done it? And we learn and we feed our intuition to become better and better. And usually it takes 2 or 3 weeks for people to go from optimistic to sufficiently realistic. Yeah. So all those people who say people cannot estimate, they never tried and they never had me as a coach. If the time was not spent on a task, it's a time management problem. Too much distracted, too much time spent on other tasks, and therefore there was not enough time for the remaining tasks. Too much time spent on other things. If we have a plan, that's what we do. Other things we don't do. Yeah, next week they can try to put them on the list. What you see here, we immediately consume the metrics of our estimates and we learn immediately. So I was in the US at a project of these 40 people, and they a year later I came back and the QA person said, Niels, I have a database full of metrics. Yeah, for everybody in the project, for every week, what they estimated for every task and what they actually did. I said, Doug, sorry, I'm not interested. Every week we consume these metrics and then they lose their value. Maybe there's some PhD student who wants to do something with your database, but okay. And we close any unfinished task because we can't work in history. Yeah, and if there is a tail of a task, we put it on the candidate activity list and it will pop up when it is most important. Which means if it doesn't pop up the next week, it was good that we stopped because other things were more important. And then, so first we reflect on what we did, we learn from it, and then we start planning task of the next week. An example, John was planning this, and I can't write down what exactly it was, so I made some ABCs there, but these were his estimates. A week later, reals. Yeah, you can imagine this is realistic. So some things were done. If it is 3 estimated and 3 real, we don't spend time on it. Yeah, I mean, that's good enough. Yeah. If it's 5 and 13, what did you think last week? What do you know now? Can you feed your intuition to do a better estimate next time? 3 and 2 was similar enough. 2 and 1, maybe, even if it's only half, well, maybe think a little bit, what did I think? Why is it now only 1 hour? And things like that. So based on the learning, he planned the next week. This was his list that he came in with, 40 hours. Well, as I usually say, I can't do 40 hours because I go to the loo, I drink coffee, I do planning and we help each other and whatever. Yeah, but it all has to be done. I said, really? He said, yeah, this is for two projects. I have to do some user interface or whatever design or so, he said. I said, okay, which? So he said the first 4 are for team X and the others are for team Y. So we asked for the project lead of team X to join, and she looked at the list and we said, we can't do all. So which things we can postpone and which things you need really next week? So she looked at it and she said, well, these 2 I need and the others can be done next week. But John still had 37 hours, which is more than 26. So we invited the team lead of the next. And we did the same. And guess what? Now we are 26. And now there's a chance that he succeeds. And as far as I know, he did. Yeah, there's no point in planning something that you already know won't work, because then you also don't learn anything. Now he learned already. He put into his intuition this knowledge about what he thinks and what is real. So changing within a few weeks from optimistic to realistic. Now, what I do if I see this list, this task list, of course, here's only task, but they write down in a few words what they think they are going to do in order to achieve what we should achieve. And then I have my innocent questions, because half of what people are going to do later proves not to be necessary. So how do we find that? Yeah. So I have my innocent questions like, really? Should we? Why would we do that? Who's waiting for that? Task B. Who's waiting for that? I don't know. But it was in Jira, so I have to do it. I said, yeah. If we don't know who's waiting for it, how do we know we're doing the right thing? How do we know we're done? Who's paying our salary? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. What do they need? Who's waiting for that? Yeah. What do they need? How much do they need? When do they need it? Is it really necessary? Is it really necessary now? How do you know? There are more innocent questions, and you can find your own why, what happened, what could we do, what could we have done? Yeah. What makes us think that? What's different this time? Last time we didn't succeed. Why do we think this time we will? Yeah, etc. But every time there is a problem, we use the mantra, what are we going to do about it? Because leaving problems is just waste. So people come in with their week plan and go out with a modified plan, more going to do the right things and less spending time on the necessary things, which is from week one, from day one, immediate savings. You see how quickly you can improve the execution of the work. But never ever challenge an estimate. An estimate is an estimate to the best of their knowledge. If we don't understand it, then all we can say is, what are you planning to do? Yeah, the person says, I need 3 hours to do certain things, and I think I can do it in 1 hour. But he can be wrong, I can be wrong, both can be wrong. So we can ask, not, shouldn't it be one? No. What are you planning to do? And then we have some discussion, and then depending on that, they can estimate again. But sometimes they say it just takes so much time. And even if I don't understand that, then I say, okay, we tried. Yeah. The first week I tried this with one guy in a company in Belgium. He planned 40 hours. I said, I can do 40 hours in 40 hours. Yeah. He said, yeah, but I'm doing my best. I said, okay. He just, I had tried to help him, but he insisted. The next week, I had my mirror. Can you see my mirror? Yeah. If I would have told him what to do, he would see straight through the mirror. But he told himself what he was going to do and how much time it took and that he could do it. So I held the mirror. I said, how much did you do? 40%, he said. Next week, 80%. Next week, about 100%. That's how quickly people learn if we are serious about time. I'm going to skip this. You can read it if you download the presentation. So what we are doing is to make the best use of limited available time. After the work, the time is already spent, and before we can still decide what's really important, what's not important, what we must do, what we can do, what we cannot do, etc. Yeah. So we plan first instead of finding out later. We cannot change history, but we can improve the future. And then the whole planning session is optimized in spending time with as few people as possible, because I see many full teams do whole planning sessions. Well, that's quite costly. Of course, it's important to know from each other what they're going to do, but have a look at this. Individual preparation. People work on their current tasks and they can already think what to do next, maybe discuss with other people what they should achieve next week, and then decide what they are going to do to contribute to that estimate and make the list with how much time they have available and come in the one-on-one, which I do if I start, but teams can learn to do that with each other. Yeah. And there we first retrospect about what happened, and we pre-spect in, is it really the most important? We look at the list and we ask the innocent questions. Yeah, is it possible? Does it fit? And then we have our individual plan. And why is that? Because the generation of the plan takes more time than the modulation of the plan. So we generate with one person and we modulate with two people. But then, of course, the team also must know. So after that, we have the team meeting, synchronization with the group. Yeah. So people say, I'm going to do this. Next guy, I'm going to do this. Next guy, this. And if there's anything that one of the peers doesn't understand, what are you planning to do? Or for that, you need me, and it's not in my plan. If it's not in your plan, I don't have time for you. Yeah, and then at the end of the week saying, yeah, you didn't have time for me. That's bullshit. You can plan these things at the beginning of the week instead of failing at the end of the week. So with the group, formal confirmation, concurrency, learning, helping, socializing. Then we have the weekly task cycle to feed the delivery cycle. The delivery is what are we going to deliver, what we have achieved. Yeah. Are we delivering the right things in the right order to the right level of detail for this moment? Instead, if in the task cycle, are we doing the right things in the right order? Optimizing the requirements, checking assumptions, because better assume that our assumptions may be incorrect, therefore have to check. Their assumptions may be incorrect, etc., etc. Yeah. Never more than 2 weeks. And this is the moment I always say, don't believe anything I say. But the main thing is try to keep it within 2 weeks. But if something is done in a few days, don't let it on the table, rotting on the table until the end of the 2 weeks. No, you go to your internal, external stakeholder immediately to get feedback as quickly as possible. So it is maximum 2 weeks. And then an important thing is, we better assume that the supplier's assumptions may be incorrect. We need the input of another team, or we need an input from an external. But their assumptions may be incorrect. Maybe we can't believe them. So we have active synchronization. What is active synchronization? Somewhere around us is the bad world. We have organized our project perfect, but somewhere around us is the bad world. So if we are waiting for a result outside our control, there are 3 possible cases. 1, we are sure they deliver on right result on time. Then we just, in 3 weeks, they promise in 3 weeks we deliver. We know they always do, so we just wait and we get it in 3 weeks. Second case, we're not sure. Third case, we're sure they won't, because they never did. So if we are not sure, case 2, better assume case 3 until we know better. From suppliers already using these techniques, we can expect case 1 because we do the same. In cases 2 or 3, actively synchronize, go there. Sit on the table and you say, John, a week later you go there and you say, John, you are going to deliver in 3 weeks. When is it done? Yeah, in 3 weeks. I said, 1 week already passed. So that's now 2 weeks. Yeah, but we are so busy, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so showing up regularly increases your priority, and we can resolve issues they have. They say, yeah, I still had to ask something, which they normally ask if they don't deliver. Yeah, there was something, and we were so busy. Yeah, but if you come there from time to time, you can solve that already. And if they really will be late, you know it much earlier. Don't come with, is that here, bullshit stories. If we take the responsibility to deliver on time, we will. And it's these late deliveries of suppliers is normal, so we have to learn how to deal with that. So deadlines are important. Deadlines make us more efficient because Parkinson's law says people spend the time available. If there's no deadline, we spend the time available, right? So the only way you may move the deadline is not from you, but towards you. But I'm talking about real deadlines. A real deadline means we don't need it anymore. If it's not at Christmas in the shop, we don't need it anymore. Next year it will be obsolete. That's a mobile phone chip. They put it in a mobile phones, and next year it's obsolete. So if you're not on time, forget it. The competition will have grabbed the market. We have to wait another 2 years, or we have to wait another 30 years for the planetary constellation, for the spaceship to go out. Of course, there are also fake deadlines. They are manager's dream, and we just have to educate the manager. So one example, I was asked to develop a demo board for a multimedia chip for in the telephone, for in the smartphone. And I can't tell for which company it was, but they had the problem that their own people were starting in August and said, we can do it in November, December, we can deliver. Fatal date, the exhibition where the chip should be and the board should be was 11 February in Monaco. If it isn't there, we don't need it anymore. So in November or so, the people who are working on it said, we will be in April. So we don't need it. So they asked me, can you do it? So I made this timeline. I said, okay, if I take 2 weeks for design, with 3 weeks for layout, PCB manufacturing, producing 2 boards, test, and then on 11th it's in Monaco to show. And in the meantime, the layout can be prepared, components can be ordered, and produce some more, test them. So this was the timeline I made, based on which I said, we can do it, I think, but every day we get late on this, we can stop, because we will be late. It worked on the board, this board worked at 11 February in Monaco. So that's the timeline. How do we know that we do and get what is needed when it is needed? Standard projects, all we think we have to do with the resources we have, add some contingency, then all is done. There's only a slight problem. We need it earlier. Now, you may have heard about agile work, yeah, and if there is a fatal date, they do their best to deliver working software. Yeah, deadlines, we don't like deadlines. So by now you understand that I like deadlines, although my own presentation may have a little bit problem there, I agree. I suggest the approach is at the fatal date. Yeah, this surely will be done, this may be done, and this surely will not be done. And let what is not be done the bells and whistles that nobody cares about. Better 80%, 100% done than 100%, 80% done. So at the time they need it, we can't work in history. So every week we can look from now to a fatal date, which is another word for deadline, and there is value still to earn. Value still to earn to the time still available. Yeah. If it fits easily, if the needed time is much less than the available time, we may start and just work. If it fits exactly, then we better be careful, because probably it will take longer. If the needed time is more, then we already have a problem. And the first time I made this picture, it looked like this. But then I realized, if the match is over, you can't score a goal. So I changed the picture. Yeah. So now we know that we are late and we have to do something about it, because failure is not an option. And we can do so much, so it's a good start. Even more important are starting deadlines. Yeah, a starting deadline is the last moment you have to start to be able to be in time for the fatal date. Yeah, if you start a day later, you already know you will go over the deadline one day later. And hopefully on these things you have some space to optimize what you do when, because you can't do everything at once. So starting deadlines are more important than focusing. Actually, if you focus here, you get over it. You have to focus here. And but that's what we did. Here was a deadline. We put it on the whiteboard and we counted back how many weeks we could do and do what. Actually, we put some chairs in front of this whiteboard, asked the management to come down, explained it, and they said, oh, you're in control. That's okay, keep on doing the good work. And they went back to their room. So timeline, if it's more than about 8 or 10 weeks, we put a horizon there. Yeah, because everything beyond that is probably going to change based on what we learn here. And then we think, okay, we have there several delivery cycles. Why not just one delivery cycle? Because the first time I tried delivery cycle 1, I said, what are we going to deliver? They said, yeah, but is this in the right order? So then we decided to have several deliveries on the timeline so that we could optimize the order of doing things. There's so much more I can talk about this, but there is not enough time at this moment. Once we have defined what in delivery 1 we want to achieve, we can say, okay, that's 2 task cycles. Then we estimate what we have to do in the first week. And if we see in the first week that we only can achieve half of what we think we should achieve in the first week, we already know the work is going to take twice as much. Very weak evidence, but better don't put your head in the sand. Then here we know what we did in the first week. Here we know we did what we did in the second week. So we calibrate back and we make sure that what we deliver is the best result possible. For the time, I'm going to skip this. If somebody later wants, so it can do it. That was an example. So how to be on time, 7 options. First, the sets of options are what we see in every project, but they don't work. They make it worse. So the fatalistic one is we hope we will succeed. Well, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. We have to go for it. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Working overtime is fooling yourself and your boss. Moving the deadline, Parkinson's law. We'll spend more. Adding people to a late project makes it later. Adding people to a project may make it later. So the cheapest project is 2 people. The fastest project is 3 to 5 people, but only 20% faster. These were measured projects, real projects of similar size and different team size. So shorter time, and maybe that's an economic optimum because time to market is important. This is what we call the 9 mothers area, because some managers think you take 9 mothers and you can make a baby in 1 month. And beyond 7 or 8 people in the team, then you explode because it will take longer and you have to pay more people. How do you design an airplane? It will cost you dearly. Saving time is the low-hanging fruit. We don't have enough time, but we can save time without negatively affecting the result in many ways. And if you download this presentation, you can look at all these pages on my website. And actually, it's continuous elimination of waste. Have you heard of that? Option 7, killing the project now instead of after 9 times the budget. So how do I start? Don't tell people what to do. I was educated with Montessori education system, where even in the kindergarten it says, help me to do it myself. So don't tell people what to do because that creates resistance, and resistance wastes energy. So suggest maximum. So if I start coaching a team, I observe. We do weekly planning because I ask, what are you planning to do? Will you succeed? And all the innocent questions. Yeah. And then within 1 week already I know exactly what they're doing. And after the team meeting, everybody know for the first time exactly what everybody is going to do. Asking innocent questions to optimize doing the better things. And if that is difficult, we have some suggestions. So a task cycle plan, innocent questions, and the toolbox of things we can use. So from now on, optimizing delivery, the right results at the right time isn't really difficult. I showed you some examples. There's no excuse anymore. And if you're not sure, just ask. You can find me on here. Booklets, the yellow ones you can first read. And here is how you can find me. You can also find this presentation on the conferences page, booklets on the booklet page, and BCS in a few weeks will have the video. That was my story.
Thank you very much. This was, as always, very, very interesting. And it's true. I mean, quality costs less. So reducing,
yes. What was that? Quality costs less.
reducing the waste, doing these perspectives, and
Yeah.
following the Deming circle properly. So when we are really checking the whole time. So it's great presentation and a great reminder for me. And I still remember from 9 years ago, is planning 2/3. 2/3. We don't plan the whole time because we're going to be doing other things. Planning 2/3. That's something I've been taking with me all this time.
Yeah, there was somebody who there was a team of 3 people. Yeah. And one guy said, I plan 60 hours. 60 hours. How can you do that? Yeah, it has to be done. and therefore I have to do it. I work also at home, and so I said, well, I'm sure you, the other two people, care about your health. Yeah. So it took quite some time to convince him to plan 26 hours.
Wow.
A few weeks later, he took me apart. He said, Niels, thank you. I feel much better. And in 26 hours, I do much more than I ever did in 60 hours.